So the first thing that we need to do is we need to select the colors that we are going to be using for this pattern. So here is one that I English paper pieced, and let's just pull up a reference video or reference photo, and we can kind of take a look at where we are wanting fabrics to be. This is kind of cut down a little bit, but you can see that we have lots and lots of columns. You could choose to have the same stripe fabric all the way across, but I wanted to break it up so that this was the focal area, and then it led the eye over to the two sides and just kind of keeps the eye moving along. That's really one of the hallmarks of a great painting, is to have the eye just keep moving around, and we want to translate those into fabrics. So what we're going to do is we're going to select some fabrics that are going to give this suggestion of different details of the Jefferson Memorial. So I'm going to look for some fabrics that have some linear lines that I can break up. In this block I used some text fabric to give the illusion of some of these lines over here. So I would encourage you to really think outside of the box with this one. Really have a lot of fun. Pretend like you are coloring with crayons or colored pencils, and really let your imagination soar with this. If you don't like it, you can re-sew it, but I think you're going to have so much fun selecting fabrics and sewing them together. So I have my white bin here, and I am going to look for maybe something similar, maybe something a little bit different, and I'll walk you through my thought process on all of this. So I'm looking for something that's going to be a lighter tone on tone, and I might need to pull out my, I think I might need to pull out my gray box because most of these are black. So this has some gray in it, but it's really very distinctive that I think the words would stand out rather than blend into the background. I want the outline of the Jefferson Memorial to really stand out. This is another great fabric that has a lot of really great detail in it. I love it, but it really doesn't feel very nice, so I will not be using that one either. Again, this is another fabric that is really bold, and this would be center stage rather than the shape of the memorial. I'm going to pull out a few of these, just solid white. I might come back to them. Here we go. Here's a stripe fabric that I used before. I do like this one, so I think I might pull that one out. You know, sometimes you just return to fabrics that you really like because they worked the first time. But if you don't have a first time, you have to have something to go off of, right? Oh, I do know where. I have several other quilts that I'm working on off to the side. So I might need to bend down and pick those ones up. I used this one before and I really do love it. I might return to that one because the everything just kind of blends together really nicely. And again, it lets the center part really stand out. So here's another one that could possibly work for the side over here, but I feel like it competes a little bit too much. So I want something that's going to be a little bit more subtle. Here's another one that might work, but I think because they go in different directions, that's probably not going to be my first or second choice either. I think I kind of like the direction that it's going. Some other fabrics that would maybe be a good possibility, but not the best match. Something like this, it's very stately next to the stripes, but there's too much going on that it would just be too much competition, and it's not the right color. So let's set these to the side. So far I'm liking these colors that I've already pulled out, even if I have previously used them. So the sides of the memorial I'm using in a different color so that it gives the illusion that the memorial is wrapping around. Here's the tone on tone, and you can't see it, and it is very, very faint, but I think it might give a little bit of texture in real life. Does anybody say in real life anymore? I feel like that was a thing when I was a kid, but I don't think my kids say in real life, which is kind of funny. So this is the fabric that I used for these parts here, and I do really like them. So, and they do go really well with this. It gives kind of that illusion of lines going across. It breaks up what is going on here. Another option that might be actually really lovely. I love the script, so that's one thing that I'm thinking through, is to use the script in this section. And then I'm thinking about this for the top of the dome. Even though the dome is very, very smooth and it fans out, I mean, this would also be a fan, but it's just not quite in the right it's not going the right direction. And then I feel like this is really too bold, so that's not going to be a really good fit. So my preference when I'm pulling fabric is to use what I have instead of longing for something that I don't have, because I feel like that's always going to be a thing, that we're always going to be wishing for something that we don't have, and we'll see somebody else's block and say, oh man, I love that fabric, that's so great, where did you get it? And then we love their block more than we love our own. And part of being an artist is learning to love your own works and being confident in what you can create, and loving it and owning it, at the same time loving what somebody else has done and congratulating them for that. So, you know, it can be hard. I'm going back to my gray box because I've had several other little ideas. I know that I have some fabric in here that is a gradient, and I sort of want to see if I can use it. It might be really interesting to give that the illusion of it fanning out. I think that's what I'm going to do. And I might use gray instead of the white. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this in a much, much different direction than I originally anticipated, and that's okay. you can just start thinking about different fabrics. So let me walk you through how I got to this place. So, you know, I started here with these. I think I do like these. I think I really do like this for the for this portion here. And I think I'm going to use this for the dome because there's just a little bit of a color variation. This is a Moda fabric if you're looking for that. So here, let me clear things off so you can see a little bit better, so you can follow me through my thought process. This is exactly what happens whenever I'm pulling fabric. So I'm glad that you are joining me in this. Okay, so I like this for these. It's really going to give that really great illusion. Then I love this for the dome because it's going, even though it's just a flat piece and we're not going to be piecing things together to give it that illusion of this way, we can give the illusion, so it's not going to go this way, we'll just give it straight. So it still will have an illusion, but it will be much looser. So then what I'm thinking, this was the next one, and I might still come back to this part being for here, but I have this nice kind of check fabric that the lines are still very suggestive of columns, even though it is, you know, going in on a 45 or on an angle. It's going on an angle. We could turn it, and I might do that. I might go this way so then they're intersecting and it gives a little bit more of a stately feel. But I think that these colors are going to go really, really nicely together. And then we have the stairs in front of Jefferson Memorial, and I have this kind of a burlap texture, and with all of these different lines, you know, you have the straight lines going across here, and then we have the vertical lines here. The burlap is going to mirror both of them while still suggesting that they are stairs. So I'll take that out of the way. All right, so we have these here and this here. So I lay these out how that I want it to go with the block. Putting all my extra fabric off to the side, and I'll have to go through that a little bit later. Okay, so let's talk about trees now. I'm actually going to jump ahead to the color for the sky that I've selected, and I'm going to stick with this even though I'm tempted to change the color, but I'm going to stay with this one because I have it here, and it's just a really great sky color. So I have my extra pieces. So now what I need to know, because I've started with the focal area, that's generally what I start with when I'm selecting my fabrics. Where do I want the focus of this block to be? You could completely change it. Let's say that it was at night when you were at Jefferson Memorial and you really want the sky to be deep and dark, and that's a little bit, you know, it's telling the story of your trip there, or what you would imagine a trip to Jefferson Memorial to be like. So then you get to decide, you know, what's going to be in the background and all of that. So let's say that you want it to be a dark sky or even a sunset. So that's going to dictate what colors you use here. You wouldn't necessarily use white. You might use a different color for the memorial if it's at different times of the day. But because this is during the daytime, it's going to be more of the marble colors. So I always start with what is the focal area, and then I build out from there. In the EPP block, I was able to really easily fussy cut some trees, so it suggests that it's in springtime. But let's say that you visited in summer, you might want to have something that's a little bit more suggestive of summery time. This is another great springtime, but it wouldn't work quite as well because it does really read as these are rocks. So you do have to pay attention a little bit to what's going on inside of the fabric. And then because they are deciduous trees, I feel like this would not be the best choice for these trees because of the tone, that it definitely gives the feel of more forest with evergreens as opposed to deciduous trees. So those two are out. This one isn't bad, but I feel like they are too close in saturation, that these two are going to be competing with each other. So saturation basically means the same depth of color. There's not a color differentiation here and here, but there is a color differentiation between these two. So then what I would do is I would take a look at the fabric or the templates to see how easily would I be able to put in something like this. And this is going to be very, very simple because these are the first blocks, so we can really give that suggestion of the deciduous trees.